So I've worked on the line value of this drawing. I've cleaned up the foreground. I might still look at some of the darks to darken them. You can see there's a value shift from my middle ground to background, and the furthest background thing is these couple of lines right here that are actually a board that sits behind the still life. I still could and probably will go in and clean up some of the lines on this form. Started adding some of the details of the lid, trying to give them a little bit of dimension. But hopefully what you can see is even with line value, we're able to give our forms a sense of, or even with just keeping, just using line value and keeping it to line and not adding any shading, we're able to give our drawings a sense of depth and our objects a sense of volume. I don't erase any of my construction lines for the ellipses or any of the extended lines from my objects. I want to keep those in the drawing, but just keep them light and let the buildup of the value of the objects become the first thing and most important thing that you notice. As you can see, when I build up my lines, I use that same searching gestural line. And on these longer lines, that's trickier. And what I try to do is look at my destination point. So if I'm starting down here, I'm looking up here and I'm bringing my pencil up, and I do that lightly and build it up over a series of strokes. And then I use the eraser to kind of thin it out and clean up that line. So really just use your same gestural line language as you build up your lines and your line value, and just really hold it loose and gestural and take your time building that up. Don't put a lot of pressure at first until you start to get to the value you need. And you'll find that each of you has a different hand. Some will have a more fine touch and might get nicer lines. Some might be more gestural. I like the gestural quality in my own drawings, so I don't try to over finesse them. I like to keep that buildup. If I'm doing anything where I add value to a drawing, I build up my value with the same kind of built up line. I do a lot of hatching and cross hatching, and we'll get to that when we get to value. The main thing to try to remember is to try not to lose shape of your ellipses. Keep that continuous curve. There are a couple that I think I can clean up and work on a little more. I like the curve on this side better than this side. It looks a little pinched to me, so I might erase that and try to work that shape a little better. But for the most part, I think the ellipses look okay. And one thing that I wanted to point out as I built up this drawing. So here was my original thumbnail. I'm going to make sure it's in. And in the thumbnail, I showed the top of the big bucket in the background that had a little plastic container and a lamp, a clip lamp. So there's a clip lamp and a little plastic container here that sit on top that I thought would be nice that touches to the upper right corner. But as I drew this out and checked my proportions, things shifted up and I didn't have room for those objects in the drawing. And it didn't kill the composition. I like the way the lid actually comes up in this corner. And so the composition still works. But the point is to not, let the thumbnail dictate everything. Let your measuring and your proportions allow you to make the adjustments you need, and you can fix the composition if needed. If I felt something was off balance, I would find a way to balance it out. But I like the way this worked out, even though it doesn't match up perfectly with my thumbnail. This drawing is very close to done. There's just a couple of little nitpicky things I would do to maybe tighten up my lines. And I could look for little details. But at this point in the module 2, what I'm really looking for with your finished drawings is good structure, a good compositional structure, good individual object structure, showing the organization of your lines, and showing that your line weight, line value, line quality is becoming more nuanced than it was in Module 1. Module 3, we'll take these further and have even more details, and probably more complex objects in our compositions. So this is what I'm hoping to see you all shoot for, and I think this works well as a drawing. So we'll see where your drawings are at, and we'll take these further in Module 3.